Is this mic on? Ugh, I'm so bad with fucking technology.
Mommy, you said the F word.
Sorry, babe. Welcome to Mommy You Said the F Word. I'm your host, Sarah Goldsboro. I've experienced firsthand the messy, magical, and sometimes maddening world of motherhood. We'll share some laughs and shed some tears as I dive deep into the highs and lows of life, confront loss, chat about career, fitness, creating a life you love, finding yourself again after kids, and who the fuck knows what else. This is a space where authenticity reigns supreme. So get ready to strip away the BS and get candid as fuck. Hey guys. So in honor of today's episode, I am wearing, if you are watching this on Spotify or YouTube, I am wearing my alien sweater because today I come in peace. Didn't start off like that. I woke up this morning and chose violence the second I woke up. My husband was downstairs making a whole bunch of noise in the kitchen, emptying the dishwasher at like 7 a.m, which to some of you, you might be like, oh my God, that's so nice. No, I don't want to hear pots and pans the second I wake up. I would like to wake up silently, go downstairs, have a coffee, nobody talk to me for about 20 minutes, and then start my day. And so right off the bat, I was like annoyed the second I opened my eyes. And then my son, who is 8 going on 9, he has been, if I didn't know any better, I would assume that he is about to get his boy period, because he has been so fucking whiny lately. He cries over everything, like stuff that doesn't need to be cried over. Like me telling him he has to wear a winter coat when it's 15 degrees out. I don't need tears over that. That's common sense. And, you know, these are just like, I was talking to one of my clients at the salon the other day, and she was telling me that her 8-year-old is acting the same way. So apparently this is a thing. I'm constantly like talking to my friends and my clients. A lot of my clients that I have at the salon are new moms, and they are just settling into motherhood and, you know, figuring things out. And so many times they will say to me, like, why did nobody tell me this? And I'm just like, yeah, like a lot of crazy shit happens when you have kids and have babies, and like nobody fucking tells you anything. They're just like, here's a baby. Fucking figure it out. And, you know, all kids are different. Everybody's experience is different. Becoming a mother, being a mother, every child is different, but I feel like the common thread is that sometimes shit gets fucking weird and nobody fucking tells you. There's no warning signs. There is no handbook that tells you, oh, your child is 3 months old. Look out for this weird ass shit. Like just so much crazy shit that, you know, everybody just kind of assumes, you know, going into it. And you're like, no, bitch, why didn't you tell me this? This shit is fucking crazy. And I didn't sign up for this. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today, is just the shit that nobody fucking tells you about. And I'm not talking about like the stuff that like everybody's like, oh yeah, I kind of know that. I mean, maybe you've heard some of these things, and I can only speak from my experience. Everybody has a different pregnancy journey. Everybody has a different birth experience. Everybody is different when it comes to being a mom. But these are just things that I've experienced. And so I'm going to go ahead and share with you a few little things that I'm like, nobody ever told me this. And I feel like this is kind of crazy. So, you know, right off the bat, I feel like, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this is like a more like lighthearted, fun episode. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I feel like it needs to be said right off the bat that like one of the things that nobody tells you about is that, you know, maybe getting pregnant is going to be hard. I think we just assume that, like, we're going to have a baby and like we get pregnant and everything's going to be great. So many people aren't able to get pregnant naturally. So many people, once they are pregnant, have miscarriages. And I feel like this is just something that I need to acknowledge because it is something that I wasn't expecting. I had 2 miscarriages before I had Cam, and then I had a bunch of miscarriages after I had Cam. So this was not something going into like my motherhood journey that I was expecting or prepared for, really. So I feel like it is important to acknowledge that right off the bat. So anyway, with that being said, I eventually did get pregnant. My 3rd pregnancy was with Camden, and it was I would say a pretty normal pregnancy. I didn't really have any, I would say, complications during my pregnancy with Cam. But something that like I feel like would happen a lot that, again, nobody really tells you this or tells you how to react to this, is that I feel like once I was like pretty visibly pregnant, like, 6, 7, 8 months, I feel like random strangers would just like come up to me and like touch my stomach. And I'm just like, under normal circumstances, like people don't just come up and touch other people's stomachs. So like, don't fucking touch my stomach just because I'm pregnant. And thankfully it was never a man. That would be like extra crazy. But like a couple times, women would come up to me, or if I was like standing in line at the store, it was usually, I feel like, an older woman, would, reach over and be like, oh, like, what are you doing? And it's just like, oh, okay, like, don't fucking touch me, bitch. But, I feel like that's something that just like happens that nobody really talks about, or maybe some people like don't have a problem with it. I like to have a little bubble around me, around people that I don't know. But I feel like that was like something that happened quite often. Another thing that at least I experienced that I was actually pretty thrown off by, I was fucking horny as fuck when I was pregnant. I wanted to have sex all the time. And I pretty much figured, like, once I got pregnant, like, I can take a break. This is my time to, like, relax. I'm making a baby, like, don't expect anything else from me. But no, oh my God, like, all I wanted to do was have sex, like, all the fucking time. And I mean, up until I was like super, super pregnant, maybe like towards the very end, because I was huge by the end and I was swollen as fuck. But like through the duration, like, I was pretty fucking horny. And like, I think I surprised my husband too. But that's something that I feel like not too many women talk about. You see these cute little preggy girls walking around and you're like, oh, like, they're so cute. And it's like, these bitches be fucking and not telling anybody. So anyway, that is definitely something that surprised me. And nobody told me, expect to fuck a lot when you're pregnant. Like, that's crazy. So anyway, so let's move on to kind of the birth experience. Now, something that one of my longtime clients told me, she has 2 kids. She told me, she was like, look, if you end up having to go to the hospital to be induced, she's like, they're going to tell you, like, you can't eat because, there's always the possibility that you're going to have a C-section, and that's considered surgery. So, like, you can't eat before surgery. So if you go to the doctors and they're like, you're going to have to go to the hospital to be induced, make sure before you go to the hospital that you get something to eat, because once you are admitted to the hospital, they are not going to let you eat a fucking thing. And you might be in labor for like a couple days and they don't let you eat when you're in labor. So I was a week late with Cam. It was 41 weeks. I went to my OBGYN's office for, to see what was going on. And they were like, we're going to send you today to the hospital to be induced. And I was like, so like, can I eat anything like before? Can I get a snack on the way to the hospital? And they're like, no, like, don't eat anything. Go straight to the hospital. And I was like, okay. They like scared the shit out of you. Like, if you eat something, like, you're gonna fucking die. So I was like, even though my client told me, like, this is what they're gonna tell you and make sure you get something to eat, I was like, okay, like, I won't eat anything, I swear. So I didn't. And like, I totally regret that decision because I was not. So when I went to the hospital to be induced, like, I was not at all in labor. Like, I was starting from like ground zero. I was not having not one contraction. I was not dilated, but they wanted to induce me because I was 41 weeks. And so, like, literally, I mean, just for like the labor to start took like hours. And so from start to finish, from the time I like was admitted to the hospital to the time I had my son, was like probably a good almost like 20 hours, I would say. Which for some people, I mean, I've heard of people say they were in labor for like, like 40 hours or some shit, which at that point I would just be like, just fucking take me now. But anyway, so I definitely regret that. I thankfully didn't have to have a C-section, but I totally regret my decision to not eat anything on the way to the hospital because I was fucking starving and they only let me have ice chips and apple juice, and they didn't even want to let me have the apple juice because, and to be quite honest, I kind of wish I didn't have the apple juice because it made me nauseous. Once they gave me like some of the meds to get the labor process going, like, I did feel fucking nauseous as fuck, but they let me have ice chips and I was fucking starving. The hospital that I delivered Cam at had a Subway in it, and I remember my husband was like, oh, like, do you care if I go get something to eat? This was like, I don't know, couple hours after we got to the hospital and nothing was really going on just yet. So I was like, no, it's fine. So he like went and got something to eat, and that motherfucker came back smelling like a fucking sandwich. And I was so pissed that I didn't eat anything. So anyway, I'm telling you, listen to me, listen to my client, word to the wise, get something to fucking eat before you go to the hospital. You won't regret it. Something else that people don't tell you is that, like, once you go past your due date, like I did, every fucking hour that you go past your due date is fucking torture. Like, by the time you are that pregnant, you're like, my body cannot physically stretch anymore. Like, if I get any bigger, I literally might explode. And you were just so uncomfortable. It's a fucking joke when they tell you like, oh, like, we're gonna let you go another week, ha ha ha. You're just like, fuck you, get this baby the fuck out of me. Like, are you fucking kidding me? It's fucking torture. Don't let anybody tell you any differently. It's fucking torture. Once that day, that due date comes and goes, every day you are going to be in tears because you just want that child on the outside. This is no secret that like labor pains are they fucking hurt. But I can vividly remember before I did get an epidural, but later on because they were fucking playing games and I don't know what the fuck was going on, but they were taking forever to get me an epidural. So I was in labor for quite some time before I got my epidural, and I can vividly remember having contractions, and when I would get into like an intense contraction, which my body was convulsing so violently that I remember vividly thinking to myself, this is what it feels like when somebody is being tortured right before they die, because it hurts that bad to where like you feel like you're on like the brink of death. And I don't say that jokingly or lightly. Like, I literally don't understand how women can deal with that much pain and still be alive at the end of it. It is so intense and so violent. And I did not take any birth classes. I did not take breathing classes. I probably should have, but I was like, I'll wing it. The nurses will help me through it. I mean, I don't know if it helps. We'll never know, but that shit is fucking intense, and don't let anybody tell you like it's beautiful and they just breathed right through it. That shit is fucking intense, painful, horrible, the worst pain you'll ever feel in your life. You feel like you're about to die. I felt like an alien was trying to come straight through the front of my body. I still, I mean, I have a child, but I still don't know how babies come into this world because it's fucking crazy. Yeah. So that's something that people don't really tell you. Another thing that happened to me, a couple hours after I had my son. So something that was going on when I was pregnant with Cam is that I was aware that I had an ovarian cyst before I got pregnant with Cam. It was very small. They were supposed to be monitoring it, you know, during and after birth. Apparently, this motherfucker had grown very large while I was pregnant with Cam. And when you're giving birth, you're having an out-of-body experience. You're not aware of everything that's going on around you. So my mom told me, like, after the fact, she's like, yeah, your doctor was about elbow deep up in you and was trying to remove, like, the rest of your, like the afterbirth and all of that. But because of this very large ovarian cyst, she was having trouble like getting everything out of me, which is also something that I didn't know, that like if all of the afterbirth, your placenta and all of like the tissue that's up inside of you, like if that all doesn't come out, like that can like pose serious risks and you can bleed a lot. You can actually bleed to death if they don't remove all of your placenta, because it's telling your body to still like feed blood to that area, and like you can really bleed out a lot. So she was having trouble getting all of the afterbirth, and so I had Cam at around, I think, like 2:30 in the morning. So they took me out of the delivery room and to the suite that you stay in for the next couple days with you and the baby. And a few hours later, so I passed the fuck out. I was asleep. I remember waking up to what felt like a water balloon shooting out of me, to where, and I am not exaggerating when I say this, it didn't hurt when it came out, but I felt this huge, it felt like a water balloon kind of shoot out of me, and then I heard a splat on the floor. And it was a huge blood clot, apparently, like everything kind of working its way out of me. But the problem is that the bleeding doesn't stop. And so I wake up to this, and I'm sitting there in the bed. It's very quiet, and I look over to my one side, and I see the baby in his little, bassinet that they put them in, and he's sleeping. I look over to the other side, and Larry's snoring away on the little couch that the husbands sleep on, and I just very quietly take the little buzzer that's attached to the bed, And I rang it so the nurse would come, and they're like, yes, can we help you? And I'm like, hi, yeah, I'm bleeding. Please come. And so I was, for some reason, like very calm. And so I just remember like a nurse walks in the room, I guess thinking that like I was just like bleeding a little bit and like needed like a pad or something. And she walks in and literally just like stops and turns back around. And within 10 seconds, there was like 5 nurses in the room, like around my bed. And basically, what happened was like all of the afterbirth was just coming out, and I was like bleeding out. And I was bleeding so heavily that they had to get a doctor to come and they had to stop the bleeding. So they have to give you this tablet that will like stop the bleeding, but you can't take it by mouth and they can't put it in your vagina because you're bleeding profusely. So what happened? They had to stick it up my ass. And mind you, I just pushed out a baby and have a raging hemorrhoid. So when the doctor stuck his finger up my ass to put this tablet in my butt, it felt like a fucking knife going directly into my asshole. And I screamed so fucking loud. I think that was worse than like labor. It hurt so bad, but thankfully it stopped the bleeding. And what they told me, I was minutes away from needing a blood transfusion. So thankfully, him putting his finger up my ass and me almost passing out from the pain was worth it. But that is definitely something that I was like, yeah, I didn't sign up for this. Like, nobody fucking warned me about this shit. Like, I thought you pushed the baby out and then, like, that was it. You're done. You're good. Like, you're chilling after that. No, like, this was some wild ass shit that I was just like, oh my God. Like, and then the thing is like I've told some people about this and they're like, oh yeah, something like that happened to my sister, or like, oh yeah, like I had a similar experience. I'm like, why are we not talking about this kind of stuff? Like, this shit is crazy. They need to have signs like in the delivery room, like, bitch, you ain't done yet, like, wait a few hours from now, don't get too excited just yet. Like, I mean, come on. So that was definitely like a big thing for me that caught me way the fuck off guard. Also, getting back to like the actual birth experience, and again, like everybody's different, but like once I started with like the heavy contractions, I wanted nobody near me. Like, you see movies of like people in labor and having babies and like, their husbands are like holding their hand and rubbing their head and, like comforting them while they're like breathing through the contractions. I wanted nobody touching me. I told my husband to go sit in the fucking corner in the chair. He looked like somebody just stole his puppy. He was the saddest person I've ever seen in my life. I hurt his feelings so fucking bad because I was like, don't fucking touch me. Do not fucking touch me. Like, I don't, if they could have just put me in like a dark room with like nobody around, like everybody just leave me the fuck alone and let this baby just like come out when it wants to come out. Like, my parents were in the fucking room when I was in labor, and I believe I eventually told them to get the fuck out because every time a contraction was about to start, my dad would like start counting down, like, because there's like this screen that's in the labor and delivery room, and like you can see when a contraction is about to come, and my dad would be like, oh, here comes another one. I was like, get the fuck out now. Like, I don't want to fucking hear your fucking countdown. I don't want to hear you speak. Like, get the fuck out. It wasn't until I had my epidural. After that, I was chilling. I was like, where is everybody? Like, after I just fucking cussed everybody out and ripped everybody a new asshole, I was like, where is everybody? Like, tell them to come in. I was chilling after that. But before that, I wanted nobody near me. I did not want my husband to touch me. I did not want the nurses to touch me. I was like, everybody leave me the fuck alone. Like, people used to have babies like in the woods. Like, I'll be okay. So that's something that I wasn't expecting, to be that like irritable during labor, to where like I just didn't want anybody to touch me. That was surprising to me. And again, I feel like nobody really tells you that. Also, something, this is just like kind of like a side story, but I think it is worth mentioning because it is just so ridiculous. I definitely, like, after I had my epidural, I was like, you know, a little high, like, and I just didn't give a fuck. I actually took a nap after they gave me an epidural, and I went from like 2 centimeters dilated to 10 centimeters dilated in like an hour. They came back to check on me, woke me up from my, you know, lovely epidural nap, and they were like, oh, you need to start pushing. I was like, what the fuck? Like, it's been an hour. Like, what the fuck? So anyway, so my parents were in the delivery room, my mom and my dad. And at that point, I was, you know, spread eagle. We were pushing, and my dad was videotaping. He was recording on his phone, like the birth experience. And like, honestly, like, I wanted like a birth video. I wanted somebody to record it, but like my husband was, you know, up by my head. He was holding my one leg. The nurse was holding my other leg. I don't remember where my mom was. She was in the room, but I don't know. But you can't trust her with a camera anyway. So I know my dad knew that I wanted it recorded. So he was like, you know, across the room recording the whole, you know, experience. And the nurses were like, do you want him recording you? Do you want him to leave? And I was just like, I don't fucking care. Like, whatever. Like, at that point, I was like concentrating on my job at hand. And so anyway, my dad has he has the video of me giving birth to Cam. His head popping out. I actually, like Kourtney Kardashian style, like pulled him out of I delivered my own child, basically, which I don't really remember that happening, but it's on video. I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't remember that. But so he has the whole video on his phone, and he also has like some still photos and pictures of Cam like crowning, and you can see my big fucking hemorrhoid, and you can see like poop coming out. Birth is lovely. If you don't know that, which I feel like that's not a secret anymore either, but yeah, you do shit a lot when you push the baby out. But anyway, so my dad has some, you know, gorgeous birthing pictures on his phone. And so recently, so my parents at their house, they have one of those like Google picture, like one of those picture frames that like is connected to like your Google pictures, and like the photos like rotate in the picture frame. And so they host a prayer group at their house every like Tuesday or Wednesday night. And so anyway, I was at my parents' house not too long ago, and, you know, I glanced over at the Google picture frame that they have in their living room, and lo and behold, what do I see in the frame but my huge vagina with Cam's head coming out of it and my giant hemorrhoid hanging out of my ass. That's what I see in my parents' picture frame. And I said, Dad, why the fuck do you still have Cam's birth pictures and videos in your phone? They're in your picture frame. And Like, how many times has somebody probably seen that? Somebody from your prayer group looked over and seen that. It's probably happened more than once, and they were just too embarrassed to say anything. I'm like, Dad, you need to erase those pictures and videos, like, out of your phone immediately. I was like, I cannot right now. Like, I was shocked to look over and see that scene in my parents' little Google picture frame. That was just a little side note that I just thought that was worth mentioning, because also people don't tell you how crazy fucking grandparents are when it comes to being part of like the birth process as well. Okay, so let's move on to some things that maybe nobody really talks about when it comes to like postpartum. I feel like, again, everybody's experience is a little different. Postpartum was really a hard time for me. I had so much anxiety. I was diagnosed with postpartum anxiety. I didn't really have postpartum depression where you get like the blues and like actual like depression that a lot of women speak about. I had severe postpartum anxiety. I was having like full on panic attacks to the point where I ended up having to go on anti-anxiety medication because I was having anxiety attacks, panic attacks almost daily when Cam was a baby. I was so consumed with that something bad was going to happen to him. I really didn't like to leave my house unless I had like a doctor's appointment to go to for like a couple months after I had him. And that was really hard, and it was very isolating, and nobody really understands it. My husband didn't really understand it. My mom didn't really understand it. Nobody really understands like how you're feeling, but like everything just made me feel so panicked all the time. And this lasted for a while. Like, honestly, I mean, I still have anxiety when it comes to my son, but it's definitely not as intense as it was when he was a baby or a toddler. I was consumed with thinking. So basically, like postpartum anxiety, I feel like you just have these like intrusive thoughts that like you could be having like a beautiful, perfectly normal day, and you would just get these like horrible intrusive thoughts, and then like you can't get them out of your head, and then you just like spiral. And that's what I would do almost every single day. And I was consumed with the thought that somebody was going to try to abduct my child. So what did I do? I just didn't leave the house. Eventually I would, when he got a little bit older, and I mean, obviously I had to leave the house at some point. So I would try to like have somebody with me, like Larry or my mom. I didn't really like to leave the house by myself with Cam because I was like, what if we're at like, I always thought it was going to happen at Target for some reason. I think I watched too many like videos on social media or just heard about people abducting children in like Targets, and I would just like spiral and go down rabbit holes. And then I was just like, that's how it's going to happen. It's going to happen at Target. And, you know, so I just won't go to Target. So, I mean, it's funny now. It's really not funny. But like at the time, I was like genuinely, I really thought this was going to happen. I convinced myself that this was going to happen. And if I even thought about it, I would start crying. I would spiral out of control. So anyway, I had to go on an anti-anxiety medication, which helped. It helped a little bit. I wasn't having panic attacks every day. But this is also something that I was like, why did nobody tell me that I was going to be a fucking raging lunatic after I have a baby? I thought I was going to be the cool mom. Like, I'm supposed to be the cool mom. I'm not supposed to be this crazy person. And so it's just like, you don't know until you're in that place, like how you're going to feel. Definitely give yourself grace. It's not going to last forever. And just do what you're comfortable with at that time, because these things feel very real when you're in the moment. And, just do the best that you can. It won't last forever. But I feel like this is something that I wish somebody would have told me. Like, this is a possibility. You may be fucking crazy for a hot minute. Like, it's normal, even though you don't feel normal and you feel like, again, you're an alien in your own body. Like, I'm like, for sure, somebody has come down, snatched me out of my body, and taken me to the mothership, because I am not my old self. Like, where is my old self? Like, I'm not normal anymore. I'm crazy. Like, that's how I felt. Like, I felt fucking crazy. So something else postpartum so I went from like wanting to have sex all the time when I was pregnant, and then once the baby was on the outside, I was like, my husband, I wanted nothing to do with him. I actually like hated him some of the time. I was like, okay, your job is done here. Like, go out into the world. Like, I don't need you anymore, basically. Like, I wanted nothing to fucking do with him. I definitely didn't want to have sex. I mean, my vagina was like the size of like a pumpkin. So I surely didn't want to have sex. And I just, my body, I felt gross, and like I was exhausted. I mean, it's no secret that you don't sleep with a baby, and my son was a horrible sleeper. For all those people that are like, oh, my child is 3 months old and sleeping through the night, I'm like, fuck off. Like, where was that? I'm like, Cam, what the fuck were you doing? Your ass didn't sleep till you were 2 years old, and this motherfucker's sleeping at 3 months. Like, what the fuck? So, yeah, like, hated my fucking husband, wanted nothing to do with him. Like, he could have, like, gone and, like, never come back, and I wouldn't have cared. Like, to be quite honest. Love my husband. He's a wonderful father. I'm glad he was there. But did I need him there? No, I did not. It was me and the baby and my nipples for a good couple months. And that brings me to the next thing that nobody fucking tells you about, is that when you are breastfeeding and pumping, your nipples are unrecognizable. So, like, I don't have, like, super big boobs. Like, I've never had big boobs. Like, my nipples have always been, like, on the smaller size. When I tell you that I thought, again, somebody came down, took my old boobs, my cute little perky boobs, removed them from my body, and replaced them with cow udders. That is what I felt like. Your nipples are like, I mean, you can measure them. They're so far away from your body. They look like, oh my God, what are those like little sausages that you make like pigs in a blanket with? Like Vienna sausages, like those little party sausages. That's what your fucking nipples look like after breastfeeding and pumping. Like, when you're pumping and you're looking down and you can like see your nipple like inside of the pump, like it is like stretching, and like it is long. You have long nipples. They are huge. I mean, again, where is the manual on this? Where is the handbook that says watch out for them crazy ass nipples? Like, nobody tells you this. Like, I was not prepared for the nipple torture that I endured. I only breastfed for a couple of months. I ended up having to have surgery to remove that large cyst that I told you about. I had to have surgery when Cam was like 2 months old. So unfortunately, I did have to stop breastfeeding, which I honestly didn't mind breastfeeding. It was the pumping that was fucking, ugh, I hated it. I hated it. So as your kid gets older, it's like, I feel like we have this like vision of like what we expected to be like as a mom. Like I was always like, I don't know about you, but I'm going to be a cool mom. And like I said, I was not at all a cool mom. I was a shell of a human being. I was crying every day. I was a raging lunatic. So as Cam got older, this this anxiety kind of manifested itself as me becoming like a helicopter mom. Like I was definitely the mom at the playground that like hovered by their child. And there's this playground near us that's like, it's a pretty big playground and it has some pretty tall structures. And like when he would climb up inside of it, I wouldn't be able to see him anymore. And there were times that I ran up into the thing or made my husband, my huge 6'4" husband, go up inside of this, kids play structure because I got so anxious that I couldn't see him anymore. And for years, even like up until last year, I mean, he was like 7, when he would go up inside these play structures and I couldn't see him, I would make him say, "I'm up here, mommy," so I could hear where he was. I mean, I can't help it. It's just like I worry so much about my child. And that happened. We went to a kid's birthday party at one of those indoor play places. And he was this little, like, I think he was like 2 or 3 years old. And I didn't realize that there was going to be like kids of all ages, like running up into those things. And I couldn't see him. And I saw all these older kids and I'm like, oh my God. I had a full-blown panic attack at my friend's daughter's birthday party. And my husband had to go up inside and look for him. And my husband comes back like 5-10 minutes later without Cam. And I'm like, where is he? And he's like, I couldn't find him. I literally, my life flashed before my eyes. I was like, I made a full-blown scene. Like I was hyperventilating and I thought for sure somebody had abducted him. I was like, I was wrong. It wasn't Target. It was at the kids' play place. That's where it happened. And so come to find out, his little ass had come down the other side and he was like sitting on the ground, like on the other side, like playing with some other kids. And we found him, obviously, and all was well. But at one point, I thought like I wasn't going to like survive motherhood. I was like, I'm going to give myself a heart attack. My blood pressure is like through the roof at all times. Like I just need to stay in the house like until he's like a teenager. We just all need to stay in the house because like I can't handle going out into the world. And like honestly, that is just, I never thought I was going to be like that. I thought I was going to be like traveling with my child. Fuck that. We did not get on a plane with Cam until he was 6 years old. Now, mind you, the pandemic happened during that time, so traveling was hard for a while. But like honestly, I just wanted to stay like close to home in my comfort zone. And so besides like driving to the beach, like we did not really travel that much when he was little because I was too scared to be quite honest. And I definitely was one of those parents that like, so again, back to the playgrounds, there's kids of all ages at the playgrounds. And like, now that my son's a little older, like I get it. Like 7, 8, 9-year-old boys are rambunctious. They're running around the playground or, the park, and they're not always watching out where they run. And there was definitely times at the playground where like little Cam, like 2, 3 years old, would be like trying to play, and there would be some like big ass kids running around and like knocking kids over. I screamed at so many like 7-year-olds on playgrounds. I didn't give a fuck where their parents were. I was like, I will fucking fight their parents. I don't give a fuck. And I will fight this fucking 7-year-old if he knocks my child off this play set. I was like, I will fucking fight somebody. And I yelled at so many kids, like, just who were playing. They weren't doing anything. I was just so scared that they were gonna like knock Cam over and like he would get hurt, that I just like, so playgrounds were also like not so much fun. I was like, that was kind of like, I would try to find ones that were like a little less crowded, because if they were super crowded, I'm like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't think my blood pressure is going to survive this trip to the playground. And then also, like, looking back, I'm just like, oh my God. Like, so our neighbors, they just had their first baby just recently, like 2 weeks ago. But like when they first moved in next door to us, I believe Cam was like 4 years old. And so he would, he would go to bed kind of early, and our neighbors are a little younger than us, and they're so sweet. But like at that time, again, like I didn't really know them, and Cam was little and they were a little younger than us. So they would like have friends over, and sometimes they would be having like kind of loud parties. We live in a townhome. So like their deck is right next to our deck. And I remember this one time that they were having a party, and it probably wasn't even that late at night. It was probably like 9 o'clock. And I just remember I was like standing in my kitchen, and I was like, oh my God, if they don't shut the fuck up. I was like, they are so loud. And they were loud, but like, honestly, like now if it happened, I probably wouldn't care that much. But at the time I was just like, oh my God, like I am going to lose my shit. My child is sleeping. So I like swung my sliding glass door open. I went out on my deck, and there was just like, I just remember like these like guys just kind of like staring at me, and I was like, will you shut the fuck up? I was like, I have a 4-year-old. And it was just like so dramatic for no reason. And I just remember like just being so like angry, like how dare these people like have fun. And like, so anyway, it was just like, again, my anxiety was just so bad that I just wanted to like keep my child so protected, and like God forbid he wakes up because there's noise. It was just, oh my God, like I can't even, like thinking back, like I can't even with myself. It was like so over the top and so unnecessary and dramatic. But that's how I was feeling for quite some time after having Cam. And back to, I thought that Larry and I were going to be like the cool parents, and that was just out the door. Larry also, don't let me fool you when it comes to Larry. Larry is still a helicopter dad. And I feel like he sometimes is a little more helicoptery than I am. Like yesterday, my child is almost 9 years old. My child is going to be 9 in May. Yesterday, I made Cam breakfast, and I gave him a half a banana, and he wanted some more after he finished his first round of breakfast, because, we're up to like 2 breakfasts now. But he asked if he could have the other half of the banana. And so Larry was already up and in the kitchen. So he's like, did you cut Cam's banana up? I was like, no, I didn't cut his banana up. My husband still cuts Cam's food up like into small pieces. This child is almost 9 years old. And so like we are the parents that like, I mean, we don't go out like too often by ourselves. Like occasionally we'll have like a date night, or like 2 years ago, we went on really our first big vacation without Cam, like since he was born. We went to California for a week. Other than that, before that, we had only like gone like away for our anniversary for like one or two nights. So that was like a big deal for us. So yeah, we'll like plan like a date night and go out to a nice dinner. And god damn it, if we're not like, we haven't been away from him for an hour and we're sitting at the table like fucking looking at pictures of him from like when he was a baby and like videos and like passing our phones back and forth like, oh, look at this, look at, he was so little. And it's just like, I mean, get a grip. Like, we are like the worst. Like, get a life. I want to tell myself that sometimes, like, get a fucking life. Like, nobody tells you, like, how obsessed you become over your child. Like, we get it. Like, you have a cute kid and, like, you love your child. Like, okay. But no, like, I mean, that is something that, like, I thought parents, like, they couldn't wait to get away from their kids. Like, they couldn't wait to go out and, you know, go on like a vacation for a week and go out to dinner every other weekend because they just can't wait to get away from their kids. And that is true to a certain extent. Like, you need a break. But like, I mean, I'm gone for an hour and we're already like, I miss Cam. Like, we're so lame. So fucking lame. And that, in a nutshell, is motherhood. And these are just some things that I've experienced. I'm sure there is a long list of shit that, you know, I didn't even cover. I would love, if you're listening to this, hit me up on Instagram and comment or leave me a message and just tell me some of your like ridiculous things that like have happened to you, whether during pregnancy or just motherhood in general, that like people just don't fucking talk about. Like, why the fuck didn't I know this going into motherhood? Why did nobody warn me? Like, I feel like there's just been so many times where I'm just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, this can't be for real. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you are an expecting mom or you are just starting out in your motherhood journey, I hope this helped because, you know, motherhood is beautiful and it's just such a special, amazing time, but it is filled with just the craziest, most outlandish, fucked up shit you will ever experience. It is not for the weak, but you are a mom, so you can do anything, and you are made for this. And so anyway, I hope you really enjoyed this, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. Show me some love by sharing this episode and be the first to know when new episodes drop by following the show wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube and follow me on social media at Mommy You Said the F Word.